wear a different color shirt.
Good go, sir. Yeah.
All right, guys, we got Coach Drinkwitz here ahead of Mizzou football's game against Vanderbilt this Saturday at 11 a.m. on SEC Network. As always, we'll start with a opening statement from Coach and then get your hands raised and we'll get you in the queue to ask your questions. So with that, Coach, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to start with saying happy Thanksgiving. It's a great time of year for us to be able to really reflect on all the blessings that we have in our life, starting with living in this great country, and for me specifically, my wife and my girls and my family, and then the opportunity to be the head football coach here at Mizzou. Just a tremendous football team that I get to be around. It's been a interesting season and nothing like anything we probably expected. But I'm very thankful for the men in this locker room, the men in this organization that have sacrificed so much and been resilient in the face of all kinds of adversity. Starting this week, starting yesterday about 5:30 when we found out that we're now playing Vanderbilt. And so I had to flip the switch. Excited about the opportunity to play. We've had, a couple of games canceled and moved around. So the fact that thank the SEC for finding us an opponent. Obviously not ideal to have to switch that late. We were pretty much done with our game plan versus the other team that we were going to play. And now we're focused in on Vanderbilt. Obviously, Coach Mason, I think, is an outstanding football coach. I know their record is not what they want it to be right now, but I think that's a large part due to COVID. And I think there should be some grace and thought into that situation because of what's being dealt with COVID. For all coaches across the board. Obviously, has got a new offensive and defensive coordinator. His offensive coordinator came from La Tech. I think does an outstanding job. You can tell that the true freshman quarterback is really starting to develop his own identity and feel for the offense. Defensively, Coach Roof has been a tremendous defensive coordinator for a long time. Respect the work that he does. Know that he's going to have an outstanding scheme and game plan for us. So we got a lot of work to get done. Switched over from Diet Coke to coffee this week just to try to make sure we're ready. Been going and will be going for a long time. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
First one comes from Gabe DeArmond from Power Mizzou. Gabe.
Eli, other than your beverage choice, can you kind of detail the last 72 hours for us and how you had to flip that switch? And does anything carry over from, can you go back to what you had the week of October 17th when you were initially playing these guys?
Yeah, we got in about 3:30 on Sunday morning from South Carolina, and so that takes a toll on everybody's bodies. And so we got in here a little bit later Sunday afternoon and put the tape away. Had Victory Sunday meal Sunday night, and then prepared for our next opponent, which is pretty standard. Get up early on Monday morning, get a workout in, and get started on the next opponent. And try to have base game plan done, have a staff meeting at 4. And then I meet with the defense at 6 to get an overview of what they're going with. And got Coach Pittman, I will give him credit, called me Monday morning and let me know that their numbers were really close and was just giving me a heads up. Didn't let that affect my day because I knew that we needed to prepare either way. And got a phone call, about 4:50, 5 o'clock-ish that said, hey, we're going to be making a switch with the schedule. Had an emergency staff meeting and met with the team at 5:30, told them we're playing Vanderbilt. Stayed up here till about midnight last night. We're back up at 5, up here at 5, ready to rolling again. So I got practice here at 1 o'clock. And, one thing we all know now with COVID, that it doesn't matter. There's no excuses. The product on the field is going to speak for itself. There's coaches been let go. There's really no, if we're playing a game, the expectations that you put a good product on the field, there's going to be consequences. So it is what it is. We got to do good work.
Next one comes from Dave.
Oh,
Madden.
Sorry, Gabe. I did not, as far as carryover, they've played 4 games since the COVID. And so, you try to go back and watch and see, okay, they played 2, or maybe it was 3 before we played them. I think it was 2. And then the other 4, and there's not really a ton that carries over. You wish it did, but it doesn't.
Next one comes from Dave Matter from the Post. Dave?
Hey,
Eli, the idea when you guys are playing games with right around 50 scholarship players, that's close to what the NFL has on a Sunday, and you have walk-ons you can add to that. I know you guys want to play. Do you let yourself ask or wonder if it's right or wrong to do that, or do you always feel like with walk-ons you have enough to field a team and to get through a game?
I mean, I think I think each individual coach has to know his team. I think you have to know what you're putting out there. This is the SEC, which is a tremendous league. In my opinion, it's second to just the NFL. So you're playing against NFL players, and there's a difference between an NFL offensive or defensive lineman and a true freshman offensive lineman in their development process. And if you put somebody out there who's not ready, especially on either side of the ball, really, then you risk injury. And that's the reality of it. You know, there's a lot made about the number. Well, this is what the NFL has. Well, the NFL has 1,500 of the best players in the world. All right. And in college football, you have 126 teams with scholarship numbers. So I think the threshold where we said 7 linemen, you know, whatever was the D lineman and 2 quarterbacks or 1 quarterback really is what you got to look at and say, can I put a team on the field? You can cross-train wideouts, DBs, linebackers, tight ends, but there's the O-line, D-line, and quarterback are such a specific position that I think it's, you're potentially putting people in harm's way. And again, I think it goes back to each individual coach has to know his team. And my job is to do the very best that I can for the University of Missouri football program. I'm not beholden to anybody else. I'm beholden to the University of Missouri and our football program and what's in the best interest of our program. And then I work with the SEC. And so whatever's in the best interest of our program moving forward to build our program, that's what I worry about when I wake up in the morning, when I do my job, when I have these press conferences. I don't worry about how it affects the other group. Not first. I worry about that second.
Mitchell 40 from Power Mizzou. Mitchell.
There we go. Hey, Eli, I know you have some familiarity with Ted Roof, the defensive coordinator at Vanderbilt. Do you see much or any carryover from the scheme he ran at App State to Vanderbilt this season? And does that familiarity help at all?
There's always some things that a defensive coordinator does that is the same DNA. I think one of the aspects that I have a tremendous amount of respect for Coach Roof for is he's able to adopt and adapt his scheme to what fits his players and their personnel and what they know and what gets them off the ground the fastest. Just like he did at App, we adopted some of the things that they had previously done. I think he's adopted some of the things that really Vandy's done and been successful at. And so there's not a ton of carryover there.
Next one comes from Suichi Terada from the Star. Go ahead.
Hey, Eli. Talking roster numbers, how are you guys just doing? How was the Sunday round of testing? How are you guys feeling?
Yeah, Sunday we had 0 positives. But as always with testing, there's another round today. And so we won't know until we get our results Thursday on where we're at. There's always a tremendous amount of nerves when you travel. And so I think we're, just waiting to see how that plays out. We should get some guys back today to practice and some guys off of the COVID, some guys back. The roster that we turned into the SEC for this week's game was 59, but that did include Larry, X, Trajan, and Kobe, which, we're still wait and see on those guys.
Eric Blum from the Tribune. Eric.
Eli, you mentioned kind of your sleep schedule earlier, but if you don't mind me saying it, you don't look fatigued. But so besides just your caffeine choice, just how do you keep either the mental fatigue or physical fatigue off of you and other guys on the team?
I try to work out in the mornings to get myself going, and then, it is what it is. It's a choice to make. I think your attitude reflects your beliefs. I believe this is the right thing for us to do, and so I choose to have a great attitude about it. Like I'm told a lot, I chose to do this, so nobody's making me do it. Nobody makes me get up. I choose to do this. What's right for our team and gives us the best chance to be successful. So I chose to do this, and I'll do it with a good attitude. I really, sleeps. It is what it is. But I choose to do it. I don't expect anybody to feel sorry for me.
Jack Sobel, go ahead.
Coach, after you've had a chance to watch the film, what were specifically some of the problems with the offense in the second half against South Carolina?
Yeah, I think play calling. I think I got too conservative. I was too adamant on trying to run the ball instead of utilizing some of the same pass concepts that got us going in the first half, and didn't give us opportunity to be in manageable third downs. So yeah, I think that rests squarely on my shoulders. Yeah, I think it was me.
Peter Baugh from The Athletic. Peter.
Yeah, Eli, I guess how much of the offensive line's struggles the past few weeks have to do with, I guess, just personnel struggles with injuries and stuff like that?
I mean, some. I mean, I thought for the most part we competed hard. I think schematically I didn't do a great job giving us an opportunity. I mean, we had a few MAs in communication and some protection issues that obviously we got to coach up better so that our guys understand exactly what to do in order to be successful. But hey, we got what we got, and we're going to go out there and give it the best we have. And so I'm not going to sit here and blame personnel. I'm going to blame our job as coaches is to put them in a opportunity to be successful, and we got to do that.
And then briefly follow up, Sean, sorry. Dylan Spencer obviously announced or came out he was transferring yesterday. What kind of went into that decision? I know he's a guy who played a bit this year.
Yeah, I think that's going to be I don't like to speak for other people. Obviously, at some point he'll address it. Wish him the absolute best. I think he wants to get closer to home. Think he's an outstanding player, outstanding person. I know we miss him. We wish he would have stayed and chose to stay. But obviously, he's got to do what he believes is in the best interest of his future. But I love the young man and wish him all the best in his future. But I don't have or make it a habit to speak for somebody else.
Thank you.
Yep.
Max Baker from the Missourian. Max.
Yeah, Coach, you touched on this briefly, but are you anticipating getting is it just 3, I guess, of the 11 guys that were out last week? Is that how many you're anticipating getting back for this week's game?
I think so. Yeah, I think 3. We're getting 1 contact trace back, and we're getting 2 other back. So it should be 3.
Bennett from the Post.
Hey, Eli, 2 questions. First of all, how is Kobe doing right now? I know that's sort of a question every week, but and then second, it seems like every week there's sort of a position group where it's like someone who's barely played in his college career having to step up and fill a spot. Last week it was sort of Canon York was one of those guys. I don't think we know much about him. What's he sort of like in practice and off the field?
Yeah. I'll answer those in reverse order and remind me what the first question was if I don't. But, yeah, we had to have several people step up. It was Luke Griffin's first start. It was J.C. Carlisle's first start. I think Canon York I don't know if he started, but he started. Yeah, he started first career start. Cannon's an excellent young man. He's got a great set of parents on him. He gives a tremendous amount of effort in everything he does. He's constantly working on his craft to improve. Plays extremely hard. Is a guy that we know that we can count on to do his job. Are there attributes you wish he was better at, or bigger, or faster, or whatever? Absolutely, but he makes up for it with work ethic and toughness, and we're extremely proud of him. And that's I've said it to our guys really since week 3 that everybody on our team and in that team room is going to have some sort of contribution towards our success. And whether or not that happens, in week 1 or week 2 or in week 10 or week 7, nobody knows. But your job is to be prepared for that moment and prepared for that opportunity. And in this day and age, that is really difficult because everybody wants it now. If the Wi-Fi is not fast enough, we add another G. to it. 4G, now we got 5G. If we don't have 1 gig Wi-Fi, we get 2 gigs, so that our PlayStation games are faster. Sometimes, and in life, you don't always walk out of college and become a CEO. You don't always walk out and become a starter. You have to grow. You have to develop. You have to put in time. You have to build. And that's one thing that I think, even myself as a young football coach, but even our players, we want things to happen so quickly. We are refusing to put ourselves through a process to develop. And I think that's why you're seeing some of the people, choose to do something else besides continue to be here and be prepared for their moment when it's called. What was the first part of the question?
Kobe Whiteside.
How is Kobe Whiteside? He's probably tired of me asking how he is. He's been cleared by the doctors. He is just working to make sure that he's comfortable returning to full speed action. And when he is, then he'll be out there.
Just a reminder, guys, when you raise your hands, let's get one question in without follow-ups. We got a lot of people with multiple questions and get in the queue. So next one comes from Kyle Pimmel from the Maneater.
Coach, you touched a little bit on the offense earlier, but in that second half against South Carolina, how do you go about finding any sort of spark? I know you weren't able to do it against South Carolina, but how do you try and – is it a scheme thing, or how are you trying to find a spark to find any sort of momentum when you really can't get any points on the board?
Yeah, we had a couple of explosive plays. We hit Barrett Bannister on a wheel route and then had 2 drives, and then we had a sack on the 3rd down that was probably going to be pretty open. So, we got to execute better. That the secret to momentum is execution. And I think I can help us by calling plays that we're more familiar with, that we can execute, and continue to be diverse in my play calling. But, obviously, yeah, we got to create a spark. We left our defense out on the field way too long, which showed up on that 4th quarter drive. So we got to do a better job, sustaining drives and getting the run game going. But I can't pound my head into the ground. That, we got a very capable quarterback with capable wide receivers who are smart, intelligent decision makers. So I've got to throw the ball more.
Lynn Harrington, go ahead.
All right. First off, happy Thanksgiving, Coach. And
Thank you.
follow up on the question about the offensive line. The unit only allowed 1 sack and 33 pass attempts against South Carolina. What positives did you take from that unit, from the performance?
Well, we won the game. The objective of every game is to win. I know nowadays it's become a beauty contest. And after the win or the loss, then it's about the stats, and then we break down every phase, and we make it more than what it was. At the end of the day, the objective is to win the game, and our offensive line allowed us to do that. Are there mistakes? Yes. Are there things we got to fix? Absolutely. Do we have to be more consistent in our communication? Yes. Did we have breakdowns? Yes, we only gave up 1 sack, but we gave up multiple pressures and hits on the quarterback that have to get cleaned up, that can be cleaned up through communication. We had a couple of run schemes that were negative yardage plays because of miscommunications or misidentifications, or not identifying what the scheme is, the way we needed to run it. So those things can be cleaned up, and that's a focus and execution and teaching. I've got to do a better job communicating to Coach Johnson exactly what my expectation is in these plays, and he's got to do a better job of communicating that to his players, and then they got to do a better job of executing on the game. What I'm proud of is we won the game. They played with great effort, great technique. There was no quit in them. They didn't have bad body language. You had, again, Jovan had his 2nd career start. Luke Griffin had his 1st career start. Zeke Powell has been here since July 24th, playing in the SEC. And then, Bobby Lawrence went in for him and did some nice things. So, we got a lot of positives, got a lot of depth, got a lot of competition, and got to continue to improve. That's the name of the game.
Suren Petro, go ahead.
Coach, I know you mentioned you've talked about guys transfer and everything. The transfer portal overall, obviously a lot of numbers in there. I'm just curious, I know it's a new thing, but is it kind of settled down to, the coach's code of how you do and don't recruit guys that are in there, just how that all works, or is it still something that's new and every coach is finding their way through it right now?
Yeah, it's totally new. I think every coach has their own philosophies and ways that they're going to develop their program and recruit players to their programs. There's no code or anything like that. Everybody's identifying their roster and trying to figure out, how can I develop a roster to win? What kind of timetable do I have in order to do that? Is it a quick fix, short fix? Do I have a chance to build? I mean, all those questions are going to factor into everybody's individual decisions. What are the core values that you're going to lay your head on the pillow at night and say, this is what I'm willing to handle and live with, and this is what I'm not willing to handle and live with? We've opened up Pandora's box with the transfer portal a little bit, and it is what it is. It's not changing. I had a conversation with our staff about it today. We can either complain about it or we can adjust and continue to build. Number one, we want a group of young men who are always compete. Every day is going to be a competition, because I believe that's what real life is. Every day is a competition. Number two, we got to build trust and respect. That's player to player. That's player to coach. And that's this program to our community and to our university. And, that's something that we've gotten shortchanged on a little bit with our new staff. We cut these guys loose March 31st and weren't allowed to have interaction with them except through Zoom calls, and really until July 13th. And now you've been into an 18-week season where you played 6 games, where there's, a lot of stress and a lot of stuff going on. So we've got to do a better job and continue to work on building trust and respect. We got to do more than what's expected, and we got to enjoy the journey. I've said it a lot. I think too many times people are worried about the destination. Life is not about a destination. It's about the journey that you're on and the paths that you cross while you're on that journey. And not everybody's journey is going to go a long time. I learned this, in my coaching journey. You enjoy the time that you're with people. You try to enhance each other's lives the best you can. And when your path differs, then you wish that person well and you keep marching forward. And that's really what we're trying to do. And I think that's, really what the transfer portal has become. And when we identify kids that we want in transfers or in recruits, we got to make sure that they are going to fit into those core values, because they're not changing here at Mizzou football as long as I'm the head football coach. The number one core value that you're always going to have is always compete. Every day is a competition. That's not changing.
Ben Arnett from KOMU. Ben.
Eli, resilience has been a common theme throughout this season. And as you kind of pointed out a little while ago, that's often something that takes time to build up and can take years. How have you kind of fast-tracked it this year in a season that's required a ton of resilience, and you've had to build that up really quickly?
Yeah, I think resilience and toughness are two things that, for us are extremely important in our program. Toughness, performing at your full God-given ability regardless of the circumstance. It's a mindset and it's trained. The only way to get tough is to put yourself in tough situations and overcome them. You can't talk yourself into toughness. You can't post on Twitter and become tough. You can't work out for 30 seconds on a Twitter video and become tough. You got to actually go through something. That's why they call it perseverance. You persevere through the tough times. For us, we've been able to highlight, the coaching staff that we have that have persevered through tough times. We've been able to highlight the players on our team that have persevered through tough times. I think anytime you can highlight Nick Bolton, a guy who played every snap in that football game, who covers punts. I mean, the dude is a unicorn in college football. He is a unbelievable player, person, human being, and he perseveres every day. You know you're going to get your best in that young man. And so we highlight those guys. I think you can look at Connor Bazelak, who, had an unfortunate injury, had surgery, was here over Christmas break, through Christmas break to have the surgery, had to come back early during COVID when nobody was around and train for a position that he didn't know if he'd even have an opportunity to compete on. I think you highlight those stories and try to get some something to snap in people's brains so they can identify with what they're going through to that and see that it's possible.
Dave Matter.
Eli Tosky Dove, he was not playing a whole lot before you got here. And when did you see something in him? What do you see in him? He's a guy that seems like he just makes big plays whenever he gets chances.
Yeah, Tosky's a young man who's tough and he's competitive. He works extremely hard. I can remember a couple of distinct times when everybody else was done doing something and he went out onto the turf field and was getting his own individual reps, doing it on his own. He's a guy who is always here in the training room, in the weight room, eats right, sleeps right, lives right. Those are the type of players that develop into good football players. They develop into good athletes. I mean, the best players tend to have low drama life, and he's a low drama guy. He's just got that grit and work ethic. We're really proud of him. There's always deficiencies that we point out and that he's got to improve on, just like there's deficiencies with how I coach. But he's exactly what we're trying to build. I think him and Micah have done a really good job of really, and Kiki's doing it too with Barrett Bannister and Jalen Knox. They're really starting to form the identity of that group, and it's been a lot of fun.
Gabe?
Yeah, specifically with two guys, is the plan still you expect to have Ryan Walters back this week? And then I wanted to ask about Sean Robinson, if he's back, and if he's not, is Brady Cook your backup quarterback?
Yeah, Ryan Walters will be back. He's already in the office working. He was back. And, Brady Cook right now will be our backup quarterback. And Micah Wilson will be our third emergency quarterback.
Andrew Kaufman, go ahead.
Coach, what are your Thanksgiving plans, and what are you thankful for this year?
Well, I'm thankful for the opportunity to be the head football coach at Mizzou. I'm thankful for my wife. I've got 4 beautiful daughters. I got a great family, tremendous staff that I get to work with every single day, an unbelievable football team who shows hard work, toughness, resilience. They come to work with great attitudes. It's not been the easiest thing, and so it's able to help me put what I choose to do in perspective, and very thankful for them. Obviously, Thanksgiving, we'll get up early and come in here. I think we've got practice at 9. We'll have a Thanksgiving meal for the guys at noon. I will love to go home and get a nap, but depends on what time I get home and whether or not the baby and Ella are up from their nap or not. You got to catch it right perfectly in that window. If I get that nap, then after the nap, I highly anticipate some pecan pie. And I'll get just a little sliver of pumpkin pie, so I make sure I have that for the day. And then we'll come back, that night and have a little team activity with our guys. For the guys that haven't been able to go home, we'll make sure that we have Thanksgiving again together so they're not alone. And then I'll go home and go to bed and wake up early Friday and get ready for the Commodores, a big opponent this week that's got a tremendous coaching staff and good football team that's playing, probably their best ball since week 1, I think, because they've got all their guys back now. And so there'll be a real challenge. I won't be able to have as much relaxation. I sent Coach Pittman a text last night about 11:45 and said his butt better be awake. He can't be at home sleeping since we had to change our game plan. He thought that was pretty funny, but that's what I'll be doing.
We got time for 2 more. Mitchell Forty, go ahead.
Eli, I know you touched a bit on the offensive line as a whole, but specifically with Luke Griffin making his first start, what did you see from him? And is there a chance you could continue to have to rely on him at that spot going forward?
Well, in 2020, anything's possible. There's a chance we have to rely on him at one of the other 4 positions too. I think Luke did an outstanding job of helping us win the football game. I mean, he played tough. He played physical. He didn't always play perfect with technique, but I thought he did a nice job. Obviously, in your first career start on the road in a place that we haven't won since 2014 against a quality SEC defensive line, he did what he needed to do in order to help us win. I know there's things that he wants to do improve on. And, we don't make it a habit of losing your starting job due to injury. But you got to come back and be able to help us win. And if he's not, if X is not, then we have all the confidence in the world to put Luke in there and go out and compete in this league.
Last one will come from Eric Blum. Eric.
Eli, what has Tyler Beatty meant to your football team?
He's just an explosive player who understands his role is to come in and provide a change to Larry. Obviously, Larry's a tremendously talented back, but Beatty in his own right does a lot of really good things for us. And he's a good football player. He's very smart and intelligent. He understands how to work his route in zones. He understands how to work his route in man. He creates mismatch problems. He always, obviously runs the ball well. I've got to do a better job. I challenge myself and our team or our staff to continue to find ways to incorporate Tyler and even Elijah Young. I think runs really well. We got to incorporate those guys with the ball in their hands. And how can we do that without messing up our offense, without messing up the rhythm and DNA of who we are? So that's going to be a challenge, but those guys have really proven and shown us they can do some stuff with the ball in their hands.
All right, we'll let Coach go with that one, guys. Thank you.